How do you improve the health of a generation? First, do you believe that? If you believe, which I'm going to speak for Phoenix Children's, but I think I echo the voice of many CEOs in children's hospitals across the country, is we aspire to be transformational and improve the health of a generation. And if you really believe that, then that means 10, 15 years from now, a child will grow up and have a shot at a brighter, healthier future as an adult.
Welcome to A&M Healthcare Industry Group's What's Your Moonshot podcast series, where leaders seek to solve big problems and transform healthcare. Join us for conversations to hear how their vision and bold moonshots are becoming reality.
Welcome to A&M's What's Your Moonshot podcast. I'm Chris Smedley, Managing Director with the Health Industry Group. I'm joined with Dr. Charles Hankins, Senior Advisor, and John Nickens, the President and CEO of Phoenix Children's.
What's up, guys?
Great to see you.
Boom.
Right.
We worked together in the past. I'm so excited to spend time with you and see how your careers have grown, what you've done. It's really impressive. I admire your work.
Thank you, John. It's good to be back. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your moonshot, which I understand it is really a big aim focused on transforming the children's environment and market, particularly in Phoenix where you are now, really with the aim of improving the health of children today and in the future, while preserving what's really unique about the children's market, which we'll talk a little bit today, which is very special. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, thanks, Chris, and thank you both for having me here. The idea is simple. Let's improve the health of a generation. And so when you say that, it sounds a little aspirational, kind of squishy. What's the metric that goes with that? But I'll pause for a moment. We're not going to be casual. We're going to be very purposeful. How do you improve the health of a generation? First, do you believe that? If you believe, which I'm going to speak for Phoenix Children's, but I think I echo the voice of many CEOs in children's hospitals across the country, is we aspire to be transformational and improve the health of a generation. And if you really believe that, then that means 10, 15 years from now, a child will grow up and have a shot at a brighter, healthier future as an adult. That's pretty impactful. That makes you feel good, your contribution that you gave back. Now, the journey from here to there, it's complex, it's difficult, it's a challenge, but our clinicians in children's hospitals raise their hand every day and do hard things. And so with the privilege to lead our group, I want us to set our sights on improving the health of a generation. And then when it cascades down into what does that mean for you personally, that's part of the fun of being transformational. How are you today going to improve the health of a generation? And so I'm thrilled to have the conversation with you guys today. That would be my moonshot. That is looking big and saying we change our overall perspective. We're very purposeful and we zero in on improving the health. That's the lens we look at the future with.
Listen, thank you.
John, I know that you spent most of your career in children's healthcare.
Right.
And that's admirable, and we love you for that. But you did have a chance to go experience the adult side too. And I know a lot of the things are same, but I know some things are different, and I know you're back in children's healthcare and I'm very happy about that. Can you tell us how your previous experience in children's healthcare prepared you for this, but also what is it uniquely different that got you excited about getting back fully invested in children's healthcare?
Yeah, what a fun journey through the adult side. So at one point I was president of LCMC Health Hospitals, so 6 adult hospitals in Manning Family Children's, plus we were running the Children's Hospital in Baton Rouge. And my entire career had been focused on pediatrics and children's hospitals. And what I learned very quickly is that in the adult world, there are pieces of the business side that are very mature, that maybe in the children's side, we haven't experienced. The whole concept of DRGs and even being punished if you don't hit your DRG number where you get a reduction in revenue was a bit foreign. We had touched on it a bit in children's hospitals, but man, it drives the day-to-day operations in the adult world. That I really enjoyed. It made me a stronger, better hospital administrator, I think. What drew me back to children's hospitals is just the moment walking through the hospital, engaging people who go through all of their training and choose pediatric healthcare are wired a little different. They think much more transformational rather than transactional. And I missed that heart, that mission side. And for us, it's hope and healing, being the best in healthcare, serving the patient and the family. That's our mission at Phoenix Children's. And so hope and healing for a child and their family. And that's a part. It's a struggle in children's hospitals, but you touch the whole family. In the adult world, sometimes it's one-on-one with that patient, but in the children's hospital, you're engaging with the entire family. So that maybe it was more of a heart thing. I really enjoyed the intellectual part of the adult world, but I wanted to get back and finish my career somewhere that I felt like I could be transformational. And I love your comment. There are things that are very much the same. We like to kind of separate ourselves and say, well, kids are not just little adults. You know, they need special care. But the way you run an OR is pretty much the same in adult and pediatrics. The way you run an ER in many ways can be the same. There's some subtleties there that you have to be aware of. But I think challenging ourselves in the children's hospital world and the way we function, we can learn from some models in adult.
John, you had an interesting start really in the front lines in your career that has really transcended to where you are today, and it's quite a trajectory. When you think about that path of what got you where you are today, and even many of the leaders that you worked with in some of your prior roles that have gone on to do some really amazing things as well, you're in some elite company, I would say, in the children's world. What have you learned along the way, and how does that prepare you to really successfully drive this moonshot of yours, which is focused on this idea of generational health? And I hear a lot of heart in what you say in terms of how you lead. What's the sort of special sauce that you learned along the way, or what makes John in his role as president and CEO that you're taking to Phoenix Children's that you've learned by so many others and your experiences?
Well, wow, you're going a level deeper. And most people just assume since you're the CEO, it's been this direct path. You went to school, got your master's, got all the educational components, you got experience, now you're the CEO. For me, I fell in love, got married very young, had kids. By the time I was 22, I had 3 kids. And I was, my first job that you're referencing was 3 to 11 registration clerk in the emergency room at Texas Children's. I like to look back and wow, I grew from there to where I am today through a whole bunch of people who helped me, like you guys. You knew me back in the day at Texas Children's as I was growing my career, and part of it at Baylor College of Medicine. But it's with me every day. You know, that guy, that 22-year-old back in the ER, he was snarky. He was a little sassy. He had a whole bunch of opinions about the way the CEO was running the organization, and he'd walk around and share them in the emergency room. And I think back to that guy, and every time I make a decision, every time I'm looking at policy, I remember he doesn't know me, maybe. And so what are the optics? What message am I sending by the actions I'm taking? My behavior, the policies, the decision, the people I hire, the people that are no longer at the organization, everything, who we partner with. And so it has definitely influenced who I am as a leader. I always pause and I think back, you know, living paycheck to paycheck and trying to figure out, can I just get $1 an hour raise? What's that guy thinking when I make this decision? How will it impact him? So it's influenced me. And now I think improve the health of a generation. You know, I wanted that. Maybe the guy at 22 couldn't even think in those terms. But I can, so it's my responsibility to ensure his kids have a brighter, healthier future. And so it's in my own little personal inspiration, I guess.
John, to build on that a little bit, or your thoughts, workforce in the future in pediatric healthcare, children's healthcare is really important. And you would be competing for that same workforce talent as every other healthcare system does, not just in the respiratory therapists and the nurses and the registration clerks, but also in the up and coming medical students and what specialty they're going to do and what physician role do they want to play in the future. How do you see your role in developing the workforce of the future for children's health care?
I think this is the biggest question for us right now. And it's true, I'm sure, in many industries, but healthcare, it's amplified. We should have learned something from COVID. Post-COVID, we should look back and see that during COVID, there was an entire senior group of nurses that said, I'm done, I'm out. And they just exited. And so when we go forward, now those nurses that were trained are 5 years into their training. What we have today is a generational conflict. We have boomers, we have Gen X, we have millennials, and we have Z, all at the same time. The millennials are trying to step into leadership. The Xers believe we have the leadership. They look at the world differently. When I walk around the organization, I'll make it very direct to Phoenix Children's, but almost 60% of our frontline staff are millennials. Nearly 80% of our leaders are Gen X. So you can imagine those conversations. Gen Xer is saying, hey, walk it out. Make work your favorite. Like, work is in and of itself the value, the process. And a millennial is saying, I hear you. I like to work. What's our purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? What's the meaning? I'm not going to waste my time on something I don't believe in. The Xers don't even think that way. And then you have a Gen Z who's saying, yes, the work is important. Yes, let's have meaning. And let's add some flexibility. Like, when do I want to work? Silly story, I'm talking to my daughter, I'm complaining about the generations. And she says, Dad, I don't know if you know, I'm a gig. I said, what are you talking about? She's like, well, I have 3 different jobs. She's in San Antonio, and so she works at 3 different hospitals because they wanted to tell me my schedule. But instead what I do is I give each one of them, here's the days I'll work this month. We never even thought that way. I was like, what are you talking about? You got to pick one employer and contribute. That's not our future. Guys like me have to adjust quickly to this generational. What I'm excited about is the millennials and Z, they see the world smaller. It's very personal. They're very connected. They're committed. They deliver. The millennials stepping into leadership, I think, is going to be one of the most exciting and strongest times of healthcare because they see the world with their heart and their mind. And so I'm really excited. I think this is the best time to be in healthcare. But our biggest challenge is workforce. And sometimes I believe we're doing it to ourselves by our lens. Here's one other story. I'm talking with the nurses. I said, what's one thing that would just really put us over the top that you would stay? I don't have to worry about retention. And this nurse says, if every day when I leave, you would just pay me via Venmo at the end of the day. Now, I can't even comprehend that. Some people in the boomer and X don't even know what Venmo is. But imagine that. They want to work a shift, and when the shift is over, boom, we drop the money into their account or we drop it into Venmo. I don't know. Why can't we do that? I mean, you put in the work. Why do you got to wait 2 weeks? Like, we need to challenge our way of thinking. What is it that you want? Because I don't want you going to that hospital. I want you to come to my hospital. And so now you've got some leverage. What do you want? How am I attractive to you? Because when we're done and I'm going to be a good leader and figure out how to make Venmo work, then together we're going to improve the health of a generation. But it requires me to be excellent in the day-to-day operations and the transactional to earn a ticket into the world of being transformational. So I think workforce is a big one. I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
John, I see in so much of the social media that you put out how much you're in the front lines, and I think it has to have a little bit of an origin with how you got into healthcare and have ascended. As you think about transformation and with the goals that you have, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of change that's going to be needed. You've seen many other leaders navigate that, and I'm sure there are things that you draw from. For the employees in the community and the patients and the clinicians in Arizona, how do you want them to experience that journey of transformation? What's really important to you in terms of getting to those goals, how it translates to the people that come into contact with you all?
Great question. I would have said a few years ago, I would have focused in on operational excellence and our pedigree of physicians and clinical, and I would have really focused on the day-to-day operations, who we are as an organization, taking that journey together. And I feel really confident in the way I was trained and many of the people I grew up with. We know how to handle the functions of healthcare. But when I got to Phoenix Children's, I said I was going to do 100 days of listening. And so from October 1 to January 9th, and it was hard. I like action. And so I'd go out and I'd meet with the nurses and I'd come back and say, guys, like, that's a good idea. We should go implement that right now. And they would, the executives and physician leaders would say, I thought you were going to discipline yourself till the end. And then we would do all the changes at once. And so then I stopped trying to listen just to take notes, and I just started listening. I just started connecting. And what I realized during that process is they already knew the answers and the solutions. I just had to create this connectivity. And with the community, I want to go on that journey together. I want to be out in the community. And when I say I mean Phoenix Children's, all of us. We want to be where kids are. And we want them to be proud and comfortable with us in the hospital when they need us.
John, real quick, I'd like for you to expand that just a little bit. In my experience in the bedside setting, moms make a whole lot of decisions. And dads are very important. I'm one. But the reality is that I think moms are there. If you were talking to the moms in your area, what would you want, one message you'd want them to hear about children's health care and why it's so important for their families?
Well, I'll do it. Is moms, I want you to know we are absolutely committed with everything we have to deliver excellent care to your child. And then we're going to think beyond just the holistic, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. We're here for you. We want to improve the health of a generation. It starts with how we treat you and your child when we have that interaction.
John, thank you so much for coming today.
That was fun.
It was awesome.
Talking with us.
And this was right after Artemis 2 just landed. And so your moonshot aligns very closely with what I heard during all that. So it was awesome.
That was pretty cool to watch, wasn't it, Artemis? Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for having me. What a great job you guys are doing helping people tell the story.
Amazing. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Alvarez and Marcel. Leadership, action, results.